we've looked at companies domiciled in other countries, and we continue to look at companies domiciled in other countries. We wouldn't, we're happy for the U.S. and for Atlanta that Coca-Cola is domiciled in Atlanta, but would we pass on it if it happened to be domiciled in England? No, we'd love it if it were domiciled in England too. And we feel that the important thing is the business, not the domicile, although we're more familiar in a general way with domestic companies that are domiciled here, although they may make their money internationally. And we feel a tiny bit more comfortable, but for just a tiny bit, in terms of understanding the nuances of taxes and politics and shareholder governance and all of that, in something where we've been reading and thinking about it daily than someplace where we've had a little less experience. But we would love to find a wonderful business that is domiciled in any one of 30 or so countries around the world. We look some. We don't look as hard as we look at domestic companies. We're not as familiar with them, but I have read hundreds of annual reports of companies spread around the world, and we've owned a few, just a couple. They're usually not as big, so just getting the kind of money in many cases is more of a problem. But some of them are big, and we do not have such a surplus of ideas that we can afford to ignore any possibilities. And if we can find something with a market cap, probably of at least $5 billion or greater, that strikes us as having our kind of qualities and the price is right and everything, we will buy. We only have about 4 or 5 commercial paper names we accept. We're very picky about where we put the money. All gets invested. We do not have anything sitting around in the safe or any place else. So it's all invested, but we do not get venturesome in the least in terms of where our short-term money goes. So we only have, like I say, maybe 4 or 5 approved names on commercial paper, all of which I approve. I mean, if anything ever goes haywire on this, it's my fault. Right now we have maybe $1 billion and something in relatively short-term treasuries, and we have a little extra in some commercial paper, maybe. But you will never see us reaching for an extra 0.1% on short-term yields. Some of you may remember the fiasco in Penn Central in the commercial paper market, and Penn Central around 1970 or thereabouts was paying 1/4 point, as I remember, more than other commercial paper issuers. And of course, they one day, despite showing a positive net worth, I think of $1.5 billion or so, they said they had a lot of net worth but no cash. Turned out cash was more important, and so they defaulted. Now the interesting thing about doing that is if you're getting 1/4 point extra, and you came over on the Mayflower and you landed and you said, well, I'm going to apply myself to getting 1/4 point extra on short-term money, and you didn't make any mistake until you got to Penn Central, you would, aside from the compounding aspect, you would be behind at that point. And I don't like a business that you can do right for 300 years and then make one mistake and be behind. So we are very picky about short-term paper, but it is all invested, and when it's large amounts, it probably will be in treasuries. A couple firms use commercial paper we take.